What does the internet need? That's right, one more ignorant asshole spreading misinformation about Chinese diesel heaters. What's up everyone, my name is Joel and you're watching Lowered Expectations. Having some issues with my diesel heater, just wondering if the exhaust is supposed to be glowing red like that. Oh, that's flames. I'm glad it was out here when that happened because that could have been very bad. It's wonderful. What does the internet need? One more ignorant asshole spreading misinformation about Chinese diesel heaters. Hey everyone, my name is Joel, this is Lowered Expectations, and this is my video about my Chinese diesel heater. I bought this thing on the recommendation of many YouTubers who were spreading misinformation, and I planned on burning waste oil in this thing. So, what was supposed to be a quick unboxing video, and then me showing you guys how wonderful this thing is actually going to turn into a series of videos showing you guys the disaster that this thing turned out to be. Now keep in mind there are some really good YouTubers who do very in-depth videos, a lot of testing. I will post the name of one of them right here. That was my very first intro to my diesel heater series. If you haven't seen that series, playlist will be here. I have a lot of new viewers to the channel, and first of all, welcome. Second of all, I have been trying to burn waste motor oil in my heater for well over a year now, and the struggle has been a struggle. So, this video that you're watching now, I actually wasn't planning on releasing for quite some time because there's a lot of footage in between my last tests and what you're seeing now. Quite honestly, I don't really want to look through all that footage, so I'm going to summarize what I did and leave out the parts where I was cursing and swearing and pulling all of my hair out, and we'll just kind of stick to some of the fun stuff. What you just witnessed is the semi-automated startup of my diesel heater, working with, well, a little bit of diesel and some waste motor oil. The motor oil that I'm burning is pretty nasty stuff. It comes out of lawnmowers, and well, even when it burns clean, there is plenty of junk left behind. So, I'm going to walk you guys through my setup here, and hopefully when I'm done it makes sense. If this looks a little bit complicated and confusing, well, that's because it is. I'm going to do my best to walk you guys through this. Let me start by saying I have a 2 kilowatt heater back here. The 2 kilowatt heater, the ECU for it is running this fuel pump. I'm using the whole heater because the ECU needs to see a fan connected and it needs to see a heat sensor connected. The heat sensor is shoved in the outlet of the 5 kilowatt heater, and I'm doing that so that it sees heat so that it actually stays running, because if the temperature drops too much it will shut off. So now let's go back over here. This is my waste oil tank. This is a fresh oil tank that is teed in. So I've got a valve for the diesel and a valve for the waste oil. The waste oil valve is open. the fresh diesel is turned off. That line comes up here and goes to the pump that is controlled by the 5 kilowatt ECU, sorry, the 2 kilowatt ECU. The fuel line comes over to here and goes into a T. That T goes into the side of the burn chamber. Actually the top of the burn chamber, but the heater's sitting on its side, so we'll call it the side. That goes into the side of the burn chamber, and I have an additional piece in there, so there's actually 2 burn chambers effectively. Primary burn chamber and secondary. So where this fuel goes, I call that the secondary burn chamber. So this heater operates kind of like a normal one does, with the exception that we've got an extra burn chamber and a hole in it to feed fuel into that burn chamber, or burn area. The second heater, as we've already stated, is simply powering the fuel pump. And the reason we have it doing that is so that I can run the fan at full speed. I don't have ECUs or controllers that can control the fuel and fan speed independently. So I'm kind of using a little bit of a workaround. So this is the controller for the 5 kilowatt, and it is controlling the fan speed and the glow plug, but it's basically controlling the fan speed. This controller is for the 2 kilowatt, and it is controlling, like I've already said, the fuel pump. So I can actually use my app on my phone to control the fuel feed into the 5 kilowatt, or the waste oil into the secondary chamber in the 5 kilowatt. And then I am simply drip feeding fuel into the burn chamber, the primary burn chamber. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want 5 kilowatts worth of diesel going into it. The whole idea here is to use as little diesel as possible. So what I have is another diesel tank that is actually up on this shelf. And you guys can see I've got an IV drip here. And the drip is actually going quite slowly. You can see that is less than 1 drip a second. The heater right now is actually running quite cool. It's only at 160 Celsius, and that is probably largely because I'm not dripping quite enough diesel in there, so I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. Ideally, I would have 2 ECUs that had independently variable fan and fuel control, and then it would be quite a bit easier. Now, most of you have probably noticed that there is a T here. I did mention the T. One of the things that is making this work as well as it's working right now is the fact that I have this Aquarium pump from Viver. So I bought this with my own money. I think they have some available in the States, but this is a 50-watt industrial type aquarium pump, and it's hooked up to this manifold, and it's got little ball valves on it. The air is feeding through this line into the T, and it is basically pushing the fuel in. So fuel and air is going in through this tube. And before I did that, it was much harder to actually control the fuel input. I keep tinkering with it and overheating it, but other than that, it has actually been quite stable. I just counted it out, and we are dripping fuel into the primary chamber at 50 drips a minute. That is pure diesel going into the primary burn chamber. The reason why we're only putting clean diesel into that part of the chamber is because if you put nasty oil in there, it is really hard to clean out or impossible, and more than likely you're just going to ruin your chamber. The piece that I've made, the place that I'm dripping my waste oil into, is removable and quite easy to clean. So when it does eventually get gummed up, I will be able to clean it out fairly easy. You won't be seeing that in this video. That will be in a future video. Let's go outside now and look at the exhaust and see if we can see any smoke. And I will also bring my carbon monoxide meter and we can check the levels there. We've got the carbon monoxide meter here. I'm not sure what it's going to be. It's probably going to be fairly high because it's starting up. So I expect it to be maybe even like 100. I checked it earlier once it was in operation, and it was around between 40 and 50. Okay, so it is around 40. Oh, there's 50, 51. So yeah, as you guys can see, not ridiculous. If you've been watching my videos, you will see that when the carbon monoxide parts per million are really ridiculous, this thing shoots up to like anywhere between 300 and 700 fairly quickly. I was running poorly earlier today, and I put this by the exhaust, and it immediately jumped to 700 and then very quickly maxed out at 1,000. So it is quite obviously working much better now. And again, a big part of it working better is that pump. I came inside and was checking on the heater and was wondering why the temperature was so low, and then I realized that earlier when it overheated, I had removed this screen nut thing. The screws on the end of the heater, and it restricts the airflow quite a bit. So if the heater's about to overheat, sometimes we'll take this off, and if it does overheat, I'll take this off so it allows it to cool down quicker. Anyway, I had removed it from the end of the heater to allow it to cool off more quickly, and well, I didn't put it back on, and so that's why the temperature is reading 198. I guess I didn't really tell you guys, but I had it running up around 232, anywhere between 226 and 232. The problem with that is that this heater has a safety shutdown. If it goes above 236, it shuts down. So when I run it that high, I'm running dangerously close to overheating it if I run it as high as I would like to. It has been a few minutes since I put the nut on, and we're already up to 216. It was running at 198, so that's how much, 218. That's how much difference this nut screen thing makes on the temperature of the exchanger. I've stopped messing around with my heater, and I'm going to try to continue to do that for a little while so that I don't mess it up. It's really hard not to play with it. I am a tinkerer, that is what I do. So I'm gonna walk you guys through some of the numbers. These are approximate numbers. I don't have anything exact, but hopefully this answers some questions. I am currently running my waste oil fuel pump at 1.7 hertz. Which is setting 5 on that controller, but that hardly matters. And that means I am using about 135 milliliters of fuel per hour. In a full day, we would be using 3.2 liters of waste oil. For the diesel, we are using 53 drips a minute, which by volume turns out to be about 68% of the total volume of fuel that's being consumed. So basically, by running the waste motor oil, I'm saving 30% of my diesel. Now, that's not the whole story, because I'm actually running quite a bit hotter temperatures, and so I'm heating up my workspace more than I would be if I were just running the diesel. So ordinarily, when I run this thing on diesel, it runs at 210 Celsius. And even though the volume of oil is small, this thing is running 30% less diesel, but I'm actually running, the temperature is up currently at 226 Celsius, and it will run there fairly steady. It has no problem heating up my shop. I am, of course, consuming quite a bit more power. This is partly just due to my setup. It could be economized, but right now the pump is 50 watts, and I am running a second ECU, which is an additional 40 watts approximately. So I'm using quite a bit more electrical energy. And again, by fuel volume, it is 30% less. So 70% diesel and 30% waste oil is going into making the heat. The heat that I'm actually making is quite a bit more, 226 Celsius, pretty steady. And so hopefully those numbers are satisfactory to you guys. As I showed you earlier, the parts per million of carbon monoxide out of the exhaust is about 50, and that does fluctuate. Ideally, I would have a better control system. I hope to get something that is better, and yeah, see if we can make this test run even longer. My realistic expectations for this is to make the heater run for possibly 40 hours, 5 8-hour days. And that to me would be a pretty good success. Then I could take it out, clean it out, and run it for the next week type thing. Regardless of how this testing works out, I am going to be testing my custom-made burn chamber. So those of you who follow the channel may have seen this in the past. This is what they call an SNA nozzle, and basically it's a siphon nozzle. So one of these lines goes into diesel, one of these lines goes to that air pump that I just bought from Viver. I'll leave an affiliate link to that pump in the description, but I think they're only available in the US. I'm not sure why you would want one unless you're doing this experiment. Maybe you've got an aquarium that needs a big pump. But anyway, that's why I bought that, and I'm going to be doing some experimenting. The idea is this will be bolted into a diesel heater. I don't plan on actually using a fuel pump. I'm just going to use siphon feed and try to use as much of the control system from a diesel heater as I can. I'm not sure if it's going to work at all. That's quite commonly the theme of my videos. Not sure if it's going to work at all, but we're going to try it. If it does work, I will be burning waste motor oil in it because, well, if it does, I'll probably try diesel in it at first, just because that's going to be the least nasty if it doesn't work very well. Waste motor oil, when it doesn't burn properly, is a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So I'll probably go with diesel first. If it works at all with the diesel, then I'll try it with waste motor oil. I'm quite excited about this. I do have some videos testing this in my bench vise. I'll try to remember to leave that video linked here. And it looked pretty promising, but trying to use the fuel pump in the heater, and yeah, it didn't work out very well. So now I'm going to try a little bit different angle and hope that this works. Will it? I don't know. I haven't forgotten about the fuel consumption tests on the max speeding rods heater. I haven't forgotten about the fuel line testing, and I haven't forgotten about any of my exhaust testing or heat exchanger exhaust testing. I've just been really busy with this and with other things, and so those videos are planned for the future. I don't know when they're going to happen, but you'll see them when they do. If you are interested in purchasing a diesel heater, there will be affiliate links in the description below, as well as a discount code. There is also a link to my Patreon if you want to support me that way, as well as a link to my second YouTube channel where I do mostly jet ski content. That is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Okay, so I was quite foolishly chilling out in the bathtub, having a nice bath, and I looked down at my remote. It had been sticking right around 220. So yeah, I wasn't worried about anything, and then I look down and I see that it is overheated. The problem when it overheats, other than the fact that it's gotten over 100 or 236 Celsius, is that this drip feed system has no way of knowing that the heater is shut off. So this drip feed was continuing to drip even after the heater shut off. So my door is now open because I came out and my garage was filled with disgusting diesel mist. Fortunately, I noticed it as it was shutting down, so it didn't run for like half an hour or anything. It had just happened.